Thanks, guys. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Brian.
Could you help us understand how you evaluate a performance, a team or an individual performance within the context of the opponent? How do you tell if the group is progressing toward World Cup readiness when you go from playing Uruguay to the 170th ranked team in the world? Or like individually, if a player is gelling within the group, like if Haji Wright scores 2 goals against Grenada, how do you know if he's making progress or if it's just Grenada?
Listen, I think the starting point is we have respect for every opponent that we play, and we prepare for every opponent that we play, and we know that this game is going to be about our mindset, our intensity, what we're bringing to this game. And that's a really important thing. So if you talk about evaluation, this is a really easy game because we're evaluating our mentality, we're evaluating our intensity, the ability to play in warm conditions, overcome that mentally, and it's about us. And I think that's the important thing. That's the important message to the group is we're defending champs of the Nations League, and we want to get off to a good start, and it means beating Grenada tomorrow.
Next will be Henry Bushnell from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Greg. Pretty simple question. Do you feel like you've learned anything significant over the past 2 games about your team that you didn't know before? And if so, what?
I think we've reaffirmed some things. I'm not sure. We're always learning. That's the starting point, Henry. We're always trying to evaluate and learn and get better and improve on what we're doing. But what I would say, one thing that's been brought to my attention over these last couple of games is we're a very difficult team to play against. We make it very difficult for the opponent, and we can do it in a number of ways. We can do it offensively with our pressure, or we could do it defensively with our pressure. We can do it offensively with the ball. So, that's reassuring when I see some of the problems we're giving opponents. And, I think that's going to help us in the World Cup for sure.
We'll go to Stephen Goff from the Washington Post.
Hey, Greg, thanks for your time. Given the calendar, given the schedule, given the minutes through the first 2 games, fair to say we'll see guys like Bello, Acosta, Areola, and taking that a little further, how many starters do you want to reveal today?
I'm not going to reveal any today, Stephen. This is an official competition game. Their coaches definitely listen to the press conference, and we want to give our team every possible advantage we can. What I will say is we're going to put a team on the field that we expect to execute the game plan and to give Grenada a lot of problems. And that's what we're focused on.
Great. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Next will be Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Greg. Couple questions, actually. The first is you've been a part of a World Cup team and the fight to make a World Cup roster. Now that the team is qualified, how different is the feeling within camp and understanding maybe some of the dynamics there of guys competing against each other to fulfill their dream, to go to a World Cup, and how does that impact training sessions and even the dynamics in the locker room between guys? And secondly, talking about kind of lineup choices, how much do you weigh wanting to see different guys that you didn't see as much of in qualifying versus, a guy specific to a guy like Jesus, maybe a potential opportunity where there will be more chances in front of net to kind of gain some confidence if he can put some goals in the back of the net and try to build that confidence in a guy in that way as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to answer your second question first, I'd say if you look at these 4 games as a whole, right, the idea was to improve our team and to evaluate some players and to start the defense of the Nations League title. So, we still have time to fit all those things into this trip. And we will use the next 2 games to evaluate players in different ways. That's going to be our focus of these next 2 games. Regarding the first question, I'm sure there is, I'm sure there is some type of feeling for the guys that they want to, impress the coaching staff or make their claim on the team, but you really don't see it. It's really such a good group, a supportive group. What I think is going to happen, and I'm pretty confident in this, is that the guys that don't make the team, the players that do make it, will be just as upset for the guys that don't make it as the guys that aren't there. That's how tight this group is. It's going to be very difficult for us as coaches to pick the final squad. And, it's going to be, all of us are going to be sad when we have to tell a player that he's not going to be part of this World Cup group. Right now what I see is the group is pulling together. They're pulling the same direction. They're supporting each other. And it's been one of the best June trips we've had, or the best June trip we've had since we've taken over the team.
We'll go to Ivis Galarcep from SBI Soccer.
Greg, I wanted to ask you about two guys. One, Tim Weah, the other, Aaron Long. As far as Tim Weah goes, he's obviously in a great run of form, playing out wide. But there's this. He can also play as a striker. We haven't seen you use him there much. Is that an option for you, or do you really like what you're seeing from him on the wing in that wing role? As far as Aaron Long goes, obviously recovering from the Achilles and getting his form back, where do you see him in that process? And do you feel like he's become a bit kind of underrated in a way? It seems like he's become the new whipping boy among certain segments of the U.S. fan base who kind of think he's like the worst defender in the world. But where do you see him kind of in his progression?
Well, first of all, that statement in itself, and I know you're not representing that thought, but that's insane to say something like that. The guy was Defender of the Year in MLS. Is coming back from an Achilles injury, and we're purposely putting him in these games to keep pushing him and keep improving him. He's got a great character. He's got tremendous speed, and he's working his way back to this level, which is a different level. And, I think he's doing quite well, and I'm pleased with his progress. Regarding Timmy, most of the time he plays as a striker. There's another guy up there next to him. He plays in a 4-4-2. And for us, him playing as a high winger, threatening the back line, he's getting chances. He's arriving in the penalty box, so he's getting chances like, we think forwards do at times. So he's valuable to us at that position on the wing. We really like what type of form he's in and what he's bringing for us. And, we've considered him at striker, I think only in special circumstance situations when we need a certain quality.
Next will be Emily Olson from USA Today.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, a question about Nations League as a whole. The two iterations now have kind of fallen in a really good spot for this group. The first one before World Cup qualifying, and now this one in the roster finalization. For you, two questions. One, do you think the first iteration was a launching point for this group? And now do you feel like both competitions have helped add a level of mentality, whether it's the trophy on the line versus now defending a title that you hold?
Yes. So, the first time around, it was another opportunity for our guys to compete in official competition. And that's always valuable, especially going into World Cup. And if you remember, I'm sure you do remember, Emily, the game in Canada that we lost. And it was a real wake-up call for us as a group as to how difficult these games are, not to take anything for granted, and specifically the amount of intensity that we need to bring to each and every game. So I think that in itself was a great learning tool. We went on to win our group, and then win the tournament. And in that tournament itself, in the semifinal and final, was another great opportunity for us to to trial coming back from Europe. We had a game in Europe and Switzerland. We had to come back. We had to acclimate to altitude. We had to play a semifinal and then turn around 3 days later and play a final. That was great. That replicated what World Cup qualifying was going to look like, but also give this group the opportunity to win our first trophy together. And overall, the Nations League has been good to us, and we're excited to start our title defense tomorrow.
We'll go to Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg, for doing this. Just to go back to Steve's question a bit, without getting into specifics, Greg, there's a few guys that I don't think we've seen in the first couple games, like in Kellen Acosta, Jordan Morris, there's others. How important is it to see everyone? How much rotation can we expect the next two games? Are you going to take everyone with you to El Salvador? Is that the plan? And when you're assessing these guys, especially in a June camp where you have an extended time training with them, where do you learn more, on the training field or watching these guys play in the games? Thank you.
We didn't really have many training days. As long as the camp has been, there hasn't been a huge training period. If you think about, the whole group wasn't together until Monday, and we played our first game on Wednesday, was it? Thursday? Wednesday. So we only had 2 days there, and then it's about recovery after that. So it hasn't been extensive training. We're learning the most from these guys in the games. And, it would be, our idea, building on the answer from Steven's question, is our idea in this camp is to evaluate every player. So, we're running out of game time to do that. We're going to have to use some players that we haven't used yet and give them the opportunity to prove themselves either in this game or the next.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Greg. And I guess I'm going to continue on that theme. A guy whose name has not come up yet is Christian Roldan, who didn't play in either of the first two games. And I wonder if we might see him in either of these two upcoming games and what an opportunity it is for him.
Yeah, Christian Roldan is a guy that has been doing great for his club. He's been playing winger for his club. For us, he's played midfielder, sometimes winger. But overall, great team guy. He competes more than I think anyone on the team. Most competitive guy on the team. One of the most competitive guys on the team. Fantastic attitude. Student of the game. Always learning. Always improving. And unfortunately, he hasn't gotten game time yet. And that's one of the things when we're looking at these rosters and trying to deal with 6 substitutes and get guys on the field. And it's been difficult. And I've had to have a number of conversations with Christian and just tell him to try to be patient. And I would like to get him on the field these next 2 games, and we'll see if we can do that.
The point you just made about his playing as a winger in Seattle, and essentially for you, does that open up maybe some more opportunities for him because a versatile guy probably is going to raise his stock?
Yeah, I mean, in one way that could be the case. The other way is, we're building depth in these positions, and it's tough. It's tough, based on what we ask our wingers to do. But if there's any guy that's going to try to do exactly what we ask, it's going to be Christian, and he's going to give every single thing he has, and we really appreciate his effort and what he brings to this team.
Next will be Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you, Michael. Greg, we all know that anytime this team is on the pitch, especially under your watch, is to compete and to try to win any point, no matter if it's a friendly, and especially when you come about defending this cup. But is there a line to be run, perhaps like when you go to El Salvador? I mean, these teams like El Salvador look at facing the U.S. as a final game, no matter what competition it is. Is there a line to be run in terms of what the effort might need to be done in terms of taking care of guys for the World Cup?
No, I mean, listen, what we know about El Salvador is they compete, they play hard, but they also play fair. And we appreciate that from that group. I've said before that Hugo Perez has done a great job with their group. We've watched Grenada play. They've been playing hard and fair. And that's all you can ask. We want to go on the field, like you said. We want to bring that intensity. We want to be competing every single game. And we expect our opponents to do the same in a fair way. And what I've seen from both of these teams, they have. And if they can push us and test us, that's we welcome that because that's what this tournament is about.
We'll go to Brian Schroeder from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. Greg, thank you for doing this, first of all. But Serginho Dest has been typically your starting right back when he's healthy. In this camp, we're seeing Reggie and DeAndre. I wanted to ask about how both of them are progressing in this camp as they're both competing for playing time. Particularly with Reggie, this year he's been playing mostly as a right center back in a back 3. How has that affected his game? Has it forced you to consider how to use him, or maybe to use him in a different way? And also, how has DeAndre playing really since his move to Miami?
Yeah, so if you can imagine with Reggie, it was quite convenient that he plays that with his team because we wanted to build up in a 3-2, so it actually worked really well. He was used to that position with his club. We added a few wrinkles to it with that now going forward and attacking when he had the opportunity on that side. But overall, we're pleased that he happened to be playing that position with his club. I think we're not there yet with the complete evaluation period. We still have 2 games to go, 2 competitive games. And, we'll evaluate that when the camp is over. But I think both of them have been, pushing hard and really trying to make their case for that position. And it's been fun to see.
Next will be Sean McCaffrey.
Thank you, Greg, for taking time out to do this today. In the past, there hadn't been too many players from the New York, Long Island area. In fact, the past soccer president had made note of that. Now you have a great many of them, either ties here professionally, personally, familial. You were the talk of an event yesterday for having attended camps out in the Hamptons as a child. What would be the cause of so many players now? Is it just one of those things? Is it better scouting? Is it your intimate knowledge of the players? Possibly you wanted to turn Brandon Pounce with your wife who's from the island?
I was at the LIU Southampton soccer camp with John McCrudden. That was the best, and I think I used to go there when I was young, and all the college guys, they had a whole bunch of the team that participated were counselors, and I think I became a really young counselor. I think I started being a counselor at like 14. I still could have been a participant, but I graduated pretty quickly. But, I'll never forget these experiences. I'll never forget growing up playing against Long Island Red and Long Island Blue. As you mentioned, my wife is from Long Island, and, I think, like you're saying, I think it's this hotbed that for some reason hasn't really produced the caliber of national team players that you would expect from that region because of how popular soccer is. Chris Armas in my day was there, Mike Windishman before me, and now that we're seeing Joe Scally and some other players come through from Long Island, and it's great to see. We know that Long Island is big on soccer, and it's great to see guys making it through to the national team.
Our last question comes from Andrew Jones.
Thanks, Michael. Triple G, gotta ask you, man, 20 years ago, you were over in Korea, Japan, and off the back of getting that famous win against Portugal. Have you been able to talk to this group about your experience with your team making it to the quarterfinals, particularly with the way the MLS players performed in that tournament, whether you, Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, and as well as your thoughts on seeing both Jesse Marsch and Pellegrino Mascherano be able to avoid relegation in both the Premier League and Bundesliga, and how it just shapes for American coaches?
Yeah, I think that's a great accomplishment for both Jesse and Pellegrino. I know them both well, and they're both excellent coaches. Excited to see how they build on that next year, and it's great to see American coaches getting that opportunity, because I certainly think that we're capable. I know there's a lot of top quality coaches in MLS as well, and I think it's a matter of time before European clubs start looking at our coaches. Right now, they're looking at the players. I think the next step is really looking at the coaches in America. Regarding the World Cup and sharing my experiences, I'm a little bit hesitant sometimes to share past experience with the players. But I know that there will be a day when I'll call on that experience and really talk to them about it, because the World Cup is a different feeling. No matter what competition you've ever played in your life, when you're in the World Cup, it's completely different. And to give them, to help share that experience with them, I think will be helpful, and there'll be a day for that.